And a good morning to you. Welcome inside the Bottom Line here, special Friday edition, as we do. We'll bring on our good friend Bill Bender from Sporting News. Good morning to you, sir.
Hey, good morning, Lanny. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. The burning question that I have, and it's because I hear so much talk, but you've kind of got the pulse beat of this subject. How hot is the seat for Ryan Day if he doesn't win a natty?
I don't know that it's fireable. I just think that there's a lot of pressure here in Columbus right now, and it's palpable, and you can feel it every day. You can feel it walk into the coffee shop, whatever. And quite frankly, I mean, he has a higher winning percentage than Kirby Smart.
Yeah, but that's what got Mark Richt fired and got Kirby Smart the job.
I understand that. I do. But, I mean, Mark Richt didn't play for a national title, though.
Yeah.
And get these but to your point, you bring up a great point that he's 2-6 against the top five. I think if they win tomorrow, some of it goes away because tomorrow means they're probably in the playoff if they win.
Right.
If they lose tomorrow, it gets weird. And
I'm sure.
If Ohio State misses the playoff, then it's going to get really weird. But it's not. But the pressure is no longer just about Michigan. That's the weird part for me right now.
Yes. And when you look at the standings, and nobody's doing, which I like and I don't like, nobody's doing divisions, but it's hard to figure out who's at the top of the crop. And when you look at the Big Ten, you got Indiana at 5-0, Oregon at 5-0, Penn State at 4-0. Then Ohio State with one loss. I think a loss here, and they're pretty well out of the hunt.
Yeah, they won't win the Big Ten. But for them, a loss here, and then they're probably going to have to hope they beat Indiana, go 10-2, and go to the playoff that way.
Right.
Which they'd probably get in at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a different curve here. It's down where you're at. It's like North Carolina basketball or Duke basketball when they were at the apex of their run.
Right.
They expect to win every game, and they expect to look good doing it here.
Well, I'm still surprised by the whole Indiana thing, but a lot of it is scheduling. If I remember correctly, they haven't even played a ranked team, I don't think.
No, Nebraska was ranked, but kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they were like 25th, and they'll play Michigan next week, but Michigan could be rolling in there with a 5-4 record. It's not the same Michigan team. So, but that's a really good team. Kurt Signetti's done a nice job with them. They've used the transfer portal well. Curtis Rourke will start tomorrow. The former Ohio Bobcat. I hated that he left my alma mater, and he's going. But I'm happy for him because he's doing some wonderful things.
Speaking of the Big Ten, how about Southern Cal and Lincoln Riley? Seat hot?
Not yet.
Okay.
It's warm, but I mean, I think they got it together last week, and they got a win that nobody really paid attention to because it was opposite the World Series. They play Washington this week. That's one that I'll have. I think they'll go there and win. If they don't, then it gets weird. So, I just think they're having the adjustment period. I think his seat would get hot if they get into the Big Ten next year and it's a struggle again, and they show that they haven't adjusted to the style of Big Ten play.
Well, it's the same thing with Oklahoma and Brett Venables in the SEC. It's and I want to say that Saban had a quote, something to the effect that Oklahoma had no idea what the SEC was going to be like. And you and I both know back when whatever that middle of the country conference was called, nobody played defense. Everything was offense. They could put points up, but they couldn't stop anybody.
I mean, that takes a program adjustment, the way you recruit, the way you scheme up for teams and those kind of things. And that definitely takes probably a full season to do. So, yeah, I see all of that. I think Oklahoma, USC, I read an article yesterday by Matt Fortuna, who does such a good job at the inside zone. SMU is the one that's had the best adjustment of all the teams this year. And SMU could very well go to the playoff as part of their schedule.
Yes.
As long as they take care of business against Pitt tomorrow.
Yes. And I think some of this is you don't really know where all these teams how good they really are. Like, for example, Miami plays Duke, and they're a 20-point favorite, but Duke can surprise some people sometimes.
Yeah, and that's, they'll be emotional too with Manny Diaz in that
Yep.
game, and former Miami coach, and they've been pesky. They played good defense, and Malik Murphy hasn't turned the ball over a ton. So yeah, I could see Miami having a little bit of a problem with Duke, but Duke's gonna have to slow down that big play offense around Cam Ward. I actually think Cam Ward, as far as the Heisman goes, has been a little underappreciated.
Yeah.
He's playing really well. That Cal comeback was amazing, and he just continues to make plays at quarterback for the Hurricanes.
Did Sark make the right move to go back to Ewers after the injury?
I think so.
Okay. I don't think he looks the same, but
no. But I mean, once you bench him, then you're all in on Manning, and you can't really go back to him.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I've been saying people for a couple weeks that the next time this will happen, where he may face a decision, will either be against Texas A&M or in the playoffs.
Right.
And by then it'll be over.
Right.
You'll be on to Arch next year.
Mm-hmm.
So he may have that Saban, Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa moment. It'd be ironic if it was against Alabama in the college football playoff.
Right.
I think that win last week was a big one for them. They get a week off, and they'll probably be 10-1 when they play A&M at the end of the year.
I was just looking at you posted up your picks for the weekend, and of course I'm not even going to get into the Jets thing because that just aggravates me to start with. But Ohio State, Penn State, Ohio State's giving 4. You've got it pretty close, and they cover?
Yeah, I think I do. I think they'll win by a touchdown.
You got 27-17.
Well, then I got them winning by 10.
Yeah.
Then they get a late cover. I think Ohio State's defense is still pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting criticized for how they look against Oregon. Well, Oregon's a pretty good team, too. So I don't know that Penn State has the explosiveness on the outside that Oregon does. I don't know. They do have a tight end. I don't know if he's as explosive as Oregon's tight end is. And if Ohio State's won this game 9 out of the last 10 years. So for as much pressure as there's perceived to be on Ryan Day, I think there's even more on James Franklin. No,
I agree.
Well, yeah, I do. And I think because this is the first time in the last 5 years where I've gotten even thought, hey, Penn State could win this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that often when these two teams meet. So, if Drew Aller comes out and shows he's healthy and they can stretch the field and their defensive line raises havoc, yeah, Penn State could win the game. But it's one of those I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, it'll be a great game. The only thing I'm surprised about, but this is a Big Ten thing, they like to put those big games on at noon.
Yeah, I hate that this week. I mean, and I would be okay with them doing the pregame show and doing all that, the fanfare.
Yep.
And then say, hey, we'll see you back here at 8 o'clock.
And they've done that before.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous that this game's not in prime time.
Yeah.
You get the spectacle, and I think that makes the job easier for Ohio State too, quite honestly, because I've been to the White House, and I know it's crazy.
Yeah.
So. And it's a different atmosphere at noon at Happy Valley. It's still going to be tough. Don't get me wrong, but it's not. Let's not pretend it's the same.
Right. Looking at the rankings, one final question. You've got, if you took the top 12 teams, just took them from the rankings. You got Oregon, Georgia, Penn State, Ohio State, Miami, Texas, Tennessee, Notre Dame, BYU, A&M, Iowa State, and Clemson. Mm-hmm. Who do you think is not there in the final 12?
Probably Iowa State. Or BYU. I think the Big 12 could still get weird. Kansas State is still the best team in that conference, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Not above Deion and Colorado making a little run here at the end of the year.
That is amazing.
They haven't played a ranked. They could get to the 10 wins without beating a ranked team.
Yeah.
There's your weird stat.
Yeah.
So entirely possible, and these are the holes that we create when we make a 12-team format.
Mm-hmm. Who's your surprise that's not in that top 12 that gets in there? I think about, you said K-State, they're at 7-1. Pitt, they're 7-0. I think they've got one tough game to go. And then you got SMU at 7-1. Now that's going to have to work itself out in the ACC, which is crazy when you think SMU is in the hunt for an ACC title.
Yeah, K-State will get their shot as long as they take care of business. They play Iowa State at the end of the year, and then Alabama's not a surprise if they squeak in and get through. But you mentioned Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
Pitt has to play Miami and SMU.
Yep.
If they get a split there, they'd be 11-1, and they've played a lot of Power 4 teams. So I wouldn't sleep on the Panthers. It hasn't been pretty for them at times, but they continue to find win games. And when you get into November undefeated, all you have to do is take care of your business on the field.
Were you surprised at the beatdown that Alabama gave Missouri?
No, because Missouri was limping in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They had several injuries. They had Brady Cook was limping around, and Alabama was due for a game like that at home. They got the running game going. Missouri just looked like they were kind of limping to the finish line in that game, and Alabama played well. But, yeah, this next week, not this week, we got a real elimination game. I don't think the loser of LSU or Alabama will get in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So that amps up the stakes there in Baton Rouge.
Well, and the big game this week, I guess, is Pitt at SMU.
Yeah, that lends itself to wild SEC or ACC play between the two schools. SMU won a game last week they turned the ball over 6 times and still won.
Right.
Pitt, I think, got 6 turnovers and won. So that turnover margin will be key. And what a moment for SMU. First year in the ACC, hosting an unbeaten team, continue to win football games, and Brett Lashley is going to be a hot coaching candidate after this year. Yeah,
there's going to be some of those. And there's going to be, if it wasn't for the huge buyouts, I was reading an article about that, some of them are astronomical. Even you think about Mark Stoops. He's huge. And, of course, Kentucky, he's done things at Kentucky that nobody else could do. But, when you have success, they can't help but expect more success. They want to run deeper and deeper.
Oh, yeah, that's how it works. Kentucky obviously having a rough year. The quarterback roulette hasn't worked out, and, a couple close losses. They've proven they can play with the Georgia for 60 minutes, but, it's been a rough go for them. And I don't know where they'll go from here. I don't think they'll find a better coach than Mark Stoops, but we'll see how it goes here down the stretch for Kentucky. It could get rough tomorrow against Tennessee.
I agree. Bill Bender, Sporting News, as always. I appreciate your time and your insight, and you can catch him at sportingnews.com, I believe, if I did that right. And
yeah.
Thanks again for joining us. Look forward to talking to you next week.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks, buddy.
Take care.
Yeah, man. That's Bill Bender. Bill's always got some great insight on what's going on. All right, wrap it up for us this morning. See you again. Let's see, the boys will be in here tomorrow at 8. Mr. Rembert and I should be back in here on Tuesday morning. Until then, have a great weekend. Don't forget about great high school football final week here locally to get games in. The Battle of South Fork. The Battle of South Fork comes tonight, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll just have to see how that goes. Have a great weekend. See you next week.